You've been following MMA or the UFC lately. You're going to know two things. UFC is dying and John Jones is pathetic. Both of these things might be true. Both of these things are true, let's be honest. But it's not because John Jones and Tom Aspinall, their fight is unsigned. That fight is done. The UFC are just being sneaky little pricks. Let me explain. So we know that ESPN's broadcast deal with the UFC is ending at the end of the year, and the UFC are pretty vocal about wanting a better, more lucrative deal next time. They're seeking much more. I think it was 5 year, $1.5 billion deal, the last one, and now obviously they want over $1 billion a year. They want a more lucrative deal, and tensions between ESPN and UFC, they're getting worse. Let's just say we know that ESPN Plus, they've just recently removed loads of, no, they removed all of the UFC archive fights from their library. Makes you think they're anticipating this relationship ending. UFC are also, they're furious at ESPN after UFC 313. I think it was, don't know exactly what happened, but it was technical issues that were apparently ESPN's fault that stopped loads of people from watching the fights. UFC and ESPN, they're not getting along. UFC want a better deal. ESPN removing loads of old fights. It's negotiation tactics. But what we know is the UFC, they want a better deal next time. They want to maximize how much money they're going to get for their broadcast deal. And whether they're going to re-sign with ESPN or not, it is within the UFC's best interest to hold back on announcing the John Jones Tom Aspinall fight. Essentially, the UFC want to be like an American high school bully, just like shaking a kid upside down for all the pennies coming out of his pocket. That's what they want to do to their next broadcaster. And how are they doing that? They're dangling the biggest fight in the sport at the moment in front of them, saying that if you sign with us, we've got this huge fight locked and loaded, ready to go. That's guaranteed how many eyes on it, guaranteed million pay-per-views, whatever. So by keeping this massive fight unofficial, what the UFC are doing is they're using it as an incentive to secure a better media deal. They would get more money by delaying the announcement rather than announcing a fight now for Madison Square Garden in November. Because let me explain. If they're delaying the announcement, they've got in their negotiations with Amazon Prime, Netflix, ESPN, they've got the GOAT. He's not the GOAT, but they've got the GOAT in his biggest fight, his most high stakes fight since fighting Daniel Cormier. That's huge. That is gonna bolster the value of whatever deal the UFC are gonna get, because this is, if you think of the biggest fights in UFC history, this will be up there regardless. Like it will be like one of the biggest fights in UFC history. So there'll be a lot of eyes on it, a lot of money that it's going to generate. Are the UFC going to make more money by using this as leverage to get a better broadcast deal? Or are they going to get better money by just announcing a fight for November in Madison Square Garden? A deal where essentially the fight is already on their previous deal with ESPN. They're not getting any extra value for the fight. And the UFC love money. They're going to maximize any value they can get. So they're going to use this to leverage a better deal. That's essentially what I'm saying. And like, we know how much the UFC value keeping money. They'll screw people over for it. They don't care about annoying fans. They don't care about, pissing us off, just as long as they get a few extra dollars, a few extra shekels in their wallets. So essentially, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, if you think that by leveraging a mega fight, the UFC, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, can secure a few more shekels, they will be willing to, annoy fans by making fans assume that this fight's not happening. They'll be willing to piss us off in the hopes that they can, get a little bit more money. We know what they're like.